Hey guys, this is Miss Etheridge, and we're going to talk a little bit today about ratios, rates, and proportions. All right, so I'm going to be taking notes in my journal, and I believe Miss Mallory has you keep a journal for your class, so that's what you should be doing. Everything I write in my journal, I want you to write in your journal. Now, when she comes back, you'll take care of if you need to number the page, but we can go ahead and title it and date it. So go ahead and title the page Rates, Ratios, and Proportions. Now, as I make the video, the focus may go in and out just a little bit because of the hover cam. That's just it adjusting to me moving my hand. So just hang in there and it will focus back. So you may have to give it just a moment. All right, so you're going to be doing these on Friday. Friday is the 30th of November. All right, now you talked last year in 6th grade about ratios. You probably talked about how many students there were in the class, how many of those students were boys, how many students were in the class, how many students were girls, or how many girls compared to how many boys, that sort of thing. That's a ratio. Okay? So let's put that down. A ratio compares two quantities. With different units. That's called a rate. Now, as you're taking notes today, if I write faster than you're able to, you may want to watch, listen, and then pause it, and then catch up with the writing, whatever works best for you. But you do need to be listening, and you do need to get all of the notes down. Okay, so pause as needed, but try to move on because there will be other things you do today. All right, so while we're here, let's put an example of ratio. So I mentioned boys to girls, or boys to class. So let's say there are 8 boys to 12 girls. Okay, so we would have 20 students in that class, but 8 boys to 12 girls. So we could say that we have 8 to 12. We could use the word 2. We could use a colon, okay, comparing it 8 to 12. All those are ratios. That's things you have seen before. Okay. All right, and then let's talk about that rate, because we said when you are comparing them, you can get them down to a rate. So when a rate is simplified, so it's reduced all the way down, so that it has a denominator of 1. It is called a unit rate. Okay, so it's a rate, it's a little more specialized. We're finding out how much it is per one item. How much is each pound of potatoes costing? How many miles per gallon can I get out of my gas mileage? How many miles per hour am I driving? That sort of thing. You get a unit rate. Okay. All right, so when we got that, remember a rate, it's just a fraction. That's how we're going to set it up. And fractions are division. So let's talk about some common unit rates that you will see. Let's make a little chart here of sorts. I'm going to have the rate. I'm going to have the unit rate. And I'm going to have my abbreviation. And remember, we're always going to have that denominator of 1 when we're talking about these. Okay? All right, so the first rate, let's say I'm comparing number of miles in 1 hour. Okay. So number of miles in 1 hour. So we think about that as miles per hour. When I drive my car, and if I drive 35 miles per hour, that means I would drive 35 miles in 1 hour if I stayed consistent with that speed. Okay? And the abbreviation for miles per hour is MPH or MI/HR. That slash means per. Okay? So miles per hour is a very common one. Next, we could talk about the number of miles in 1 gallon. Okay. So now I'm talking about what kind of gas mileage my car is getting. So miles per gallon. If you got a good car, or you got a car that gets good gas mileage, it probably gets 30 miles per gallon. So it can drive 30 miles and only use 1 gallon of gas. So we call that its MPG or miles, MI, per the slash gallon, and GAL for gallon. Okay. All right, and then let's put one more. Just keep carrying on with your chart. Let's look at the number of dollars for 1 pound. Okay. So maybe we're buying potatoes and we want to know how much is it per pound. Maybe I'm buying bananas, so much per pound. Okay. So we would just look at that as price per pound. We think about that one, price per pound, when we're trying to figure out how to get the better buy, and you'll learn about that also in this section. Right. So a way to abbreviate it, we could say that dollars/pound, and LB is your abbreviation for pound. Okay, so dollars per pound. Now, when we're doing these, when we're making our fractions, 2 things that you need to remember. So we're going to star. I'm just put a little star. You'll know this is important. That the money always goes on top in the fraction. So it's your numerator. Okay. And if you're dealing with time, Just like when we had our per hour, that always goes on the bottom. Okay, so that's your denominator. Okay. When you get into 8th grade, we'll do a lot of graphing, and some of our graphs will involve time, and time will always be on your x-axis. It'll always be on the bottom. Okay, we'll get into that next year. All right, let's keep going. All right, let's work on finding a unit rate. We have to be able to do that. You're going to be doing that on Monday for some classwork. Okay? So finding the unit rate. All right, the first thing we need to do is to write the rate as a fraction. Okay, write the rate as a fraction. Now remember, we said that fraction bar just means divide. So you're really just making a division problem. We're wanting to break it down. We're wanting to find out how much is the price per pound. Well, how many miles per gallon are we looking at? We've got to divide. Okay? So after you've written it as a fraction, step number 2 is to divide the numerator. So that's your top number. By the denominator. Okay. And then the last thing, we will simplify. Because remember, we want that denominator of 1. Okay. All right, now let's do some examples. These are like what you'll see on Monday. Okay. Let's say I've got the example that there are 24, or we've been 24 miles in 4 hours. Okay, that's what we're doing with 24 miles in 4 hours. So we said the first thing you do is to write the unit rate as a fraction. So we've got 24 miles in 4 hours. Now notice I'm still labeling. I didn't just put it as 24 over 4. I need my labels. I need that miles per hour, that price per pound. Those numbers, those labels are important. Now we have to think, okay, what goes into 24 and 4? Well, 4 does. And if you look at that, you probably see, oh, 24 divided by 4 is really 6. And when you did that, you just were dividing top and bottom by 4. So 24 divided by 4 is 6 miles. And 4 hours divided by 4 got us down to 1 hour. Okay. So this tells me that 24 miles in 4 hours is the same thing as 6 miles per hour. Okay. Or I could write that as 6 mph, or as 6 miles, mi, slash meaning per, and hr meaning hours. Okay. So when you're working Monday, you're going to be given a statement like this. You're going to be expected to put it into a fraction, and then you reduce it so that your final answer will look like one of these. Okay, but it will need to be labeled. We don't want to just see 6. We want to know 6 what. Okay, so 6 miles per hour. And you can abbreviate if you choose, but be consistent. All right, let's work with another one. Let's say I've got 300 for 6 hours. Okay. So we said step 1 was to set up your fraction. Okay. So 300 over 6. Because we said also, we said to remember that money goes on top. So here we are with our money. So $300, and the dollar sign is my label, over 6 hours. Okay. So I'm wanting to know, I don't know if this is, if we're paying this per hour or maybe we're getting paid per hour, but $300 for 6 hours is happening. So we want to know, what is that per hour? So think, okay, 306, what goes into each? Always try your bottom number, because remember, we want a denominator of 1. So if 6 goes into 300, that would be really nice. So let's divide it out. So think about it, you can do this without a calculator. You know that 6 doesn't go into 3, but 6 goes into 35 times, and then add your 0. So we're looking at $50, and 6 divided by 6 is 1 hour. Okay. So there's our answer. So we've got our fraction, we've simplified it. So let's write it out. So we have $50 per hour. Or we could say $50 slash HR, HR for hours. Okay, whichever you choose is fine. I'm kind of hoping that's how much I would make an hour. That would be awesome. All right, let's look at another one. I've got 220 miles on 8 gallons. Okay. So I'm going to travel 220 miles, and I'm going to use 8 gallons of gas. Okay. So I'm wanting to know basically how many miles am I getting per gallon. Okay. All right, so first thing, we're going to set up that fraction. So whatever number comes first, you're putting that on top. They're going to give it to you in order. So I've got 220 miles over 8 gallons. Notice I'm still labeling everything. You know exactly what these numbers represent. All right, so 220 and 8, something goes into both. Sure, we could reduce by 2, could probably reduce by 4, but let's try to reduce by 8, because remember, we want a denominator of 1, so always go for that bottom number. All right, so we're going to divide by 8. And if you divide 220 by 8, you get 27.5, okay, and that's miles. I'm going to squeeze it in up here. And then 8 divided by 8 is 1 gallon. Okay. So we found our numbers, so let's rewrite it. So I have 27.5 miles per gallon. I could say 27 5/10, or I have 27 5/10 mpg, miles per gallon, or I could say 27 5/10 mi, miles, slash for per, and gallon, GAL. Okay. All right, so when you work on Monday, that's what you're going to be looking at. All right, now let's focus a little bit on comparing using the unit rate. So we're going to talk about, it's shopping time. So let's figure out how we can find our best buy. What's the best price? Okay. All right, now I'm turning the page, but you just keep working at wherever you are. I probably write a little bigger. You don't have to turn the page when I do, just when you get ready for it. All right, so let's talk about comparing using unit rates. Let's see if we can get this to clear up a little bit. There we go. All right, comparing using unit rates. Let's underline it so we know we've got a new topic. All right, find the unit rates. This is going to be our directions. Compare and tell which one is the better buy. Oops. Okay. That's B-U-Y. Okay. Which one is the better buy? Because remember, when we're talking about money, and if it's the better buy, it's going to be the one that is the cheapest per unit. All right, so let's look at some examples. Let's say I have 40 pounds for $49. I have 20 pounds for $23.44. And I have 8 pounds for $9.88. Okay, so just by looking at it, I can't tell which is the better price per pound. Okay, but we're talking about money per pound. But I need to know how much is it per pound to know which is the best price. So just like when you found the unit rate previously, we're going to do the same thing. First step is to set up that fraction. All right, so let's look at this 40 pounds for $49. Remember, we said money goes on top, so now this you're going to have to flip. Before, we've been able to take it in the order it came, but they reversed it on us. You have to be careful. So I'm going to move up here so I have a little room. So I'm going to have $49 for 40 pounds. And remember, we try that bottom number. We want to reduce it down to 1, so that's what I'm dividing by. So I'm going to divide by 40. That's what's happening here. Because that 40 divided by 40 is going to give me 1, which is what I want. I want to know per pound what's the price. Right? Now, we're going to round to the nearest hundredth on these if necessary, because we're talking about money. So we want to go to the nearest penny, and that's your hundredths spot. Okay? So when you divide these out, when we divide this out, if you're using a calculator yet, that's going to be helpful. So when I put in the 49, sorry, I'm trying to make sure you can see it here. I'm doing 49 divided by 40. You'll see that we get the 1.225, so 1 and 225 thousandths. But we're talking money. So I want to go to the hundredths place, that second 2. And because of the 5, I'm going to round up. So this is equivalent to $1.23. Okay. So that one's $1.23 per pound. All right, let's do the second one. So I'm going to draw a little arrow just so I can keep these neat. You do what you need to do. So I'm going to take the 23.44 and I'm going to divide it by the 20 pounds. Okay, and you're dividing top and bottom by 20. That's what's happening. All right, when you divide this one, let me get it where you can see it. If I do the 2344 divided by 20, I'm going to get the 1.172, so 1 in 172 thousandths. We're talking money, so the 7's in my hundredths place, so because of the 2, I'm going to stay at a 7, so we're looking at $1.17. So that's already better than our previous one. That's per pound. Okay. And then this last one, let's move our screen a little bit. Let's figure out what it would be. So we have money on top, 988 divided by 8. So we're dividing top and bottom by 8, and we're still working with pounds. Okay. So when I divide 988 divided by 8, I'm getting 1 in 235 thousandths, but I only need to the hundredths place, so I'm looking at the 3, and because of the 5, I'm going to bump up. So we're looking at $1.24 per pound. So if we look at that, this one, so mark it accordingly in your book, that is your better buy. Okay? So the best buy is $1.17 per pound. Okay? That's what we want, but you had to do a little work to get there. You couldn't just tell from the beginning information. You had to divide it on out and find that unit rate. Okay? All right, let's do another one of those. Let's say I've got 12 ounces for $2.19. I've got 18 ounces for $2.79. Or I can get 28 ounces for $4.69. Okay, so same thing. First thing we're going to do is set up our fraction. Money goes on top. So let's put it up here a little bit. So 219 over 12 ounces. Remember, we're just dividing by the bottom number because we want it to reduce down to 1. Okay. All right, if we use our tool, 219 divided by 12, we get 0.1825, but we're talking about money, so I'm only going to the hundredths, and because of this 2, it's going to stay in 8, so I'm looking at 18 cents. So we'll write it like that, 18 cents per ounce. Okay, so 1 ounce is 18 cents. All right, let's do the same thing for this one. If you're feeling pretty good about this, pause the video, you set up the other two fractions, find the price per ounce and compare, and then come back and resume the video and see if you did it right. If you're not sure about what we're doing yet, then you just stick with me and we'll get there. But if you're feeling good, go ahead and give it a try. So I've got $2.79 for 18 ounces. So we said, okay, let's divide by that 18. So I'm looking at $2.79 divided by the 18. And again, we get more than we need, but we're talking about money. So 2 places would be my penny. So because of the 5, I'm bumping up to 16 cents for 1 ounce. So that's already better. We know the 18 ounces is a better price so far. Okay. All right, then let's check this last one. So we've got $4.69, so $4.69 for 28 ounces. Okay, so you got it. We're dividing by 28. So we're looking at 4.69 divided by 28. And we've got more than we need, so second place is our penny. So because of the 7, we're bumping up. So this one is 17 cents per ounce. So which one is our better buy? It's the cheapest one. So there is our better buy. So best buy is 16 cents per ounce. Okay. All right, so I hope this has helped you today. You're going to have one more video to watch. I believe it's about a 14-minute video that Khan Academy made. It's also in your Google Classroom, so when you exit this video, it should be right there for you to click and to watch it. Okay? If you run short on time, you could maybe watch the other video during your Gatorade, but this is the most important video because you do have your notes. So be sure you keep up with this. You got it in your journal. You can look back at it. On Monday, you will have some classwork, and Miss Jackson will be in and out of your room to help you out if there's any confusion, if you still need a little help. But I think you're going to do a great job. All right, guys, thanks for hanging in there and being good while Miss Mallory's out. See ya.